learning your room so you get mixes that translate into the real world. In this video, we're going to cover the fastest way to learn your room, the reason why people EQ their speakers, and how to tune your room, but maybe the wrong way. The fastest way to learn your room is definitely just to listen to music in it, listen to commercial releases or mixes you've done in the past that you know really, really well, and just listen to them for long, extended periods of time. Get used to the room. Try and think about, how do the mids sound, the low mids, the high mids? How does the low end feel? What happens when the bassist changes notes? Like on this tune, is the kick super, super boomy? And on this tune, is it like kind of flabby and weak? Because that's going to tell you about the low end, right, in your room. If you've got multiple sets of monitors, that can be helpful as well. So some might be really mid-rangey and mid-forward and might not make the low mids in the room go all boomy. That's going to give you some more perspective, more insight. And then a really, really cool trick is to flick between headphones and your monitors. So if it's a mix you're working on, it works, but also just listening to commercial music, listen to it on your headphones. How does it sound? Think about the kick drum, think about the bass, think about the low end of the guitars or whatever the genre it is you're listening to. And then quickly take off the headphones. How is that reflected in your speakers? If you've got a tune that you absolutely love the low end on and it sounds absolutely banging in your headphones, and then you're listening to it on your speakers in your room and it sounds horrible and it's all like rough and muddy, then knowing that is going to save you loads of time when it comes to mixing, right? Because you'll be doing your mix and you'll be working on the bass and you'll be like, oh, it just sounds horrible. It sounds horrible. And you'll be beating yourself up about it, but it can't sound the way you want it to, because what you think sounds good on your headphones doesn't sound good in your room, right? It's not reality. It's not an option. You're chasing something that doesn't exist, basically. So moving on, nowadays, it's very common for people to EQ their speakers, and that's been happening for a long time, whether it's in live sound so that they can tune the system to the room or like avoid feedback, or whether that's just like in studios where you'd like work on the curve, so to speak, right? So you just make sure that normal commercial release music sounds good on your speakers in your room. I think it became popular in like the 70s in a lot of recording studios then, and everyone sort of agrees nowadays that acoustic treatment's a better solution, but not everyone's having perfectly designed built rooms, right? We're just like putting up rigs in the space in the house that we've got, and we're chipping away at the problem, trying to make it as good as possible. So I guess the most commonly known solution is Sonarworks, right? And the idea is that you buy a software EQ that sits on your mix bus, and it evens out the difference in time between your speakers, and you use the microphone to measure a load of sine waves in like 30 different places around the room, and then it creates an EQ curve to like perfectly undo all the problems in your room. That's like a really good tool, right? That's really powerful, because if you have a 12 dB issue at like 125 hertz and it's super loud and boomy, that's going to get rid of that problem for you in your speakers. So on the one hand, it's really good because it allows you to hear things in greater detail on your speakers. But in the other hand, it's not actually that great because it doesn't actually fix the problem in your room, because if something's resonating at 125 hertz, for example, it's actually a time-based problem as well. And just EQing doesn't remove that time-based problem. You won't hear the speed of those transients because they'll still be cloudy around just like the actual like 50 milliseconds that you're hearing when the speaker's pushing it. All of these room modes, all of this stuff that's happening that's making it really difficult to hear your low end, like what can we do about that? Because we're not living in a land of infinite budget and purpose-built studios. So that kind of leads on to the next point, which is how to tune your room like a cowboy, how to do it like the wrong way. And the best thing about this process that I'm going to explain now is actually it helps you get to know your room better. The beginning of this process is listening, and the end of it is ending up with an EQ curve that's a little bit like Sonarworks. Now, I don't tend to mix with this EQ curve on, especially not the most extreme form of it, but I will audition mixes through it and see if it helps fix any of the issues that I'm worried about. So between having the EQ on, having the EQ off, several pairs of headphones, a couple of different speakers, I really know I'm in the ballpark. So you're going to need a signal generator, which should come with your DAW, right? You're going to need some sort of EQ. I use Pro Q, or like the stock one will be fine, and a frequency analyzer so you can sort of see what's going on and see where you're working, and your ears. I'll caveat that with your ears are super subjective, you're subjective, so keep listening to commercial music on your speakers whilst you're doing this. Try and keep and maintain perspective by listening to your headphones and flipping back. So grab the signal generator, set it to like 100 hertz or a 1K tone. Make sure it's coming out of your DAW at the level that your mix normally would. And then set your speakers so they're playing back at the volume you normally mix at, right? So you're working in the realm that you're used to working in. And then grab your signal generator and turn it down to 20 hertz. Now, your speakers aren't really going to put anything out there. Most monitors aren't putting much below 60, much below 40 out, especially for us home studio users, right? As you bring it up to 40, you'll start hearing it kick in. As you get to 60, it should get louder. And then what I found in my room was as I got above 120 and then centering around 135 hertz, and then as it came back down again at like 145 hertz, I had like a big volume boost at around 135 hertz, and the whole room started like resonating basically. I could feel things. I could just feel the air pressure change. So that tells me I've got some sort of room mode or some sort of resonance thing happening at 135 hertz ish. So wherever that happens for you, make a note of it and then keep moving up the frequency spectrum nice and slowly. And then you'll notice another lump. Now mine was at about 270, 280, I think. And that's perfect, right? Because it's an octave, and that just makes sense that if one thing's going to be a problem, then like an octave up, then there's going to be a problem near there again, right? So I've sort of noted that those two things are a problem. Now, if I divide them by half to find the lower octave, that's at around 60, 70 hertz. And that I don't actually have a problem with, right? If my kick drum is going to be super pronounced, that's great for me because I like to feel things when I'm mixing. But what it does tell me is that if a guitarist is playing one note and then moves to another note, and one note super, super boomy and one note super, super quiet, that's most likely a problem with my room, not my mix. So even if we just stop there, that's a really, really useful experiment to do by yourself to learn your room, to get to know what's going on in your room better. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to grab our EQ and we're going to try, and in my example, I just started making a notch 135-ish hertz, and I was moving the signal generator up and down, and I was just trying to check like how much sound did I have to take away for it to sound flat throughout that region. So I'm moving the signal generator up and I'm playing with the EQ node, and then I'm moving up further up and I'm getting the next one. And I've found those two notches and now it's starting to sound flatter. And then the more detailed I get, the more times I do it, the more I notice that actually maybe there's a little bit of a thing happening at 120 as well. Like now I've sucked out that much 135, 120 feels light. So maybe I need to boost that a little bit. And these are all things that you have to be really careful with. Like everything's subjective, right? So go back, listen to your references, listen to your headphones, get your ears reset, and then do it again. But you faff around for long enough and eventually you'll get something that sounds pretty good. Another layer you can add to this is just white or pink noise. And if you're playing that and it sounds like super, super boomy at those frequencies, that's going to sort of verify that you have a problem there. That can be quite hard to hear, so don't read like too much into it. But all of these things, they're letting me get a scale on the size of the problem. Is it a 3 dB problem? Is it an 18 dB problem? You know, I'm kind of getting to know my room really well. So that's the way like I cowboy tune my room and I get to learn my room. I don't mix through that EQ. Sometimes I'll check things through it, but mostly all of this is just an experiment about getting to know your room. If you want a super accurate thing, get a measurement microphone, get Room EQ Wizard or get SonarWorks. I'm sure that will really, really help with getting mixes that translate. But if you don't have a budget, this is a really, really good tool for getting to know your room better. So yeah, just keep in mind, it's not perfect. It's a bit of a faff, but it is going to help you learn your room better. And I'm going to be setting up a studio, a public facing studio soon. And I will be getting a measurement microphone and I'll be doing all those things then. So I'll hopefully be able to make some videos about that too. So make sure you like and subscribe if that's something that you're going to be interested in. I also run in-person and online events. They're free for home studio producers to share their music with and to get like mixed feedback and stuff. They're free. You can find them through the link that's in the description to this video. There's also a load of free mix templates and some samples and stuff there too.